Oh my goodness, guys, that's incredible. Just everything is perfect here and it's wonderful, really wonderful. In the last video, we left off in the middle of day 13, and that's exactly where we are picking up now, because a lot more happened on this day. For example, there were some sandpipers and ringed plovers, but I was especially happy about the small plovers, as I had never seen them before. Luckily, I had the opportunity to photograph through some grasses to make the picture a bit more interesting, if I couldn't photograph close to the ground. And then, when the light was simply gigantic and everything shimmered gold, the egrets came again. I was able to take incredibly beautiful shots in flight, but also when they were sitting on fallen trees in the water. It's like I said in the last episode, when you think it can't get any better, that opinion is quickly changed. But there was also a very special surprise waiting for me. I saw 2 or 3 rather colorful birds sitting in a tree a few hundred meters away from me. At first, I had no idea what they could be, but when I looked closer, I realized that they were bee-eaters. These recordings probably won't really amaze you, but for me they are something very special, because these were the first bee-eaters I've ever seen. There were mallards sitting under the hide almost the whole time, but when I looked at them more closely, I realized that one was not a mallard at all. It was a female spoonbill. I'd never seen this species before either, so I was particularly happy about this discovery. Since we wanted to drive to a town at noon that day, I made my way back to the campsite. Just as I was about to leave the hut, I saw a small black animal screwing in the corner of my eye. I quickly took my camera and tried to film it, but I didn't really succeed. So I left the hut and suddenly it was sitting right in front of me on the path. I'm not really sure what kind of animal it is. I guess it's a weasel or something like that. I I also saw a small lizard sitting on the railing, basking in the sun. With my 50mm lens and macro extension rings, I managed to take these pictures. But after these little stops, I was really on my way home. At noon at that day we drove to a very special town, Katakwis, also called the White City. And this name is no coincidence. Almost all the buildings in this town are white. In the past, wine was grown on the slopes around Katakwis. But due to increasing drought, this was no longer possible, and the town became poorer and poorer, until a few decades ago, when it became better known through tourism because of its unique white buildings. There was too much going on in the town at this day, but this excursion was definitely worth it, and I was able to take some interesting pictures. Day 14, and so also my last day in Spain. Of course, I had to go to the nature reserve one last time and say goodbye to all the animals. So I set off my bike for the last time. When I arrived there, I first wanted to stop by the hut where I had been most often. Arriving at the hut, I saw the little egrets on the lake again, as expected. I was able to use this opportunity to take some great pictures of them one last time. But the egrets were not the only animals that wanted to say goodbye to me. The moorhen, the young great-crested grebe, the ducks, and later also the nutrias showed themselves for the last time. Then I decided to take another look at the storks again. When I arrived at the viewing platform, the first thing I saw was not the storks, but a large group of fallow deer in the meadow. But luckily the storks were there again too. I wasn't able to take the best pictures because the light wasn't very nice and it was raining again and again, but it was still beautiful to see the storks one last time. But then I made my way back. As it had started to rain and I still had to wait for my father, I took shelter in the first hut, and there, quite unexpected, a night heron was waiting for me. Yeah guys, that was already the last day here in Spain, and unfortunately also in this nature reserve here, because we go back home tomorrow, or we don't go back home, we are in France for 2 days on a little river, so I think I can take some other photos there too. But I will definitely miss this nature reserve here because it's so amazing, and now it's time to go back home. But I was able to take amazing photos and videos. It was incredible here. It was just incredible. The next day we didn't do much. After packing up, we got in the car and drove to France. Once there, we had a delicious pizza and enjoyed a beautiful sunset by the river. And then we rested for the next day. On the last day of our holiday, we went by car to a very special place. But more about that later, because the way there alone was simply breathtaking. The road led along a huge gorge. There were always little parking spots where you could stop and enjoy the view. And that's exactly what we did. Drive, stop, take pictures and drive on. And it was definitely worth it. Because check out these recordings. And then, at some point, we arrived at our destination, the gigantic stone arch in the river Ardèche. Okay, honestly, these shots here don't look really spectacular. It's because I took them with the cheap underwater camera. But we still had a lot of fun, even if it was not the best place to photograph. For example, you could climb through a kind of small cave and then throw yourself into the water with a rope. It was definitely a lot of fun. And then, when we were driving home at some point, I was able to persuade my father to drive to the gorge again at sunset. But first, we fortified ourselves with a delicious pizza at the campsite again. Then in the evening we were a bit late, so we had to hurry. Even from the car, the landscape looked beautiful, and I was sure I would be able to take some great pictures. When we arrived at the car park, the sun had almost disappeared behind the rock faces, but I still managed to take some great shots. But then it was time to go back, because we had to rest for the long drive the next day. Day 17, and so the last day. When I left my tent in the morning, I saw a large grasshopper sitting on a branch. Of course, I couldn't help but take a quick photo of it before we headed home. And yes, what can I say? That is already the end of this trip. I was able to capture unbelievable, beautiful moments and encounters in nature and gather some great experiences. These 2 weeks were really something special for me. I've never been able to capture so many and rare animal species in one place before. Originally, I wanted to upload 1 episode every Saturday, but as you may have noticed, that didn't quite work out. I simply had too much footage, so I couldn't finish each episode a week. So I would be very happy if you could subscribe and like this video and let me know in the comments which animal encounter you like the most. If you want to watch all the videos again, click here on this playlist, and otherwise we will see us next Saturday again. Have a great week until then, and see you out there. Bye.